Hello and welcome to ChiefTutor.com's training videos in Chief Architect. Today we're going to be talking about the terrain tools. Here Tom has sent in a question: how do I lay out a terrain when the house is on a slope with a walkout basement and the terrain generally slopes away from the house in all directions? He even sent a picture which is really nice. Let's pop that up and we'll take a little look here. So here's your house, and yeah, you're showing the terrain in pretty much all directions of the house, just sloping down. So this is pretty easy to do using the terrain elevation tools. So here I have a house that I was starting to work on for a client, and I have yet to do the terrain. So let's go ahead and do that. In the 3D, the easiest way to start a terrain, or even in the 2D, which is this tab here, you can go to terrain tool and simply select create terrain perimeter, which pulls us up a terrain. And the next thing you want to do is hit spacebar and double click on the terrain. And since we're going to modify the building pad, we want to make sure that automatic is turned off and we flatten it to 0. Now, the subfloor height above terrain 0, meaning the floor height in the house, if it's at 0, then the terrain should also be set to 0. If you're going to modify the terrain, keep it at 0. That's the best way as a starting point, so that way you won't get confused on which way you want to send it. So now that I have a terrain, and I'm going to stretch the sides out so we can really see the effect of it sloping down and away from the house. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a CAD tool. Now most people like to jump right into the terrain tools. There's elevation data tools, there's lines, there's splines, there's elevation regions, terrain rig, modifier, blah, 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 blah. But I like to kind of control things from the start. So I'll start with just a simple CAD line, and I'm going to CAD line this particular house right around like that. So I want the building pad elevation around that house to be flat. So if I select this and I go down to this tool right here, it's called Convert Polyline. So I'm going to convert the CAD line into an elevation line and click OK. And I'm going to set some of the parameters. I do want it at, and I'm going to say -6 inches, and I want it flat. And click OK. And so that brought the terrain down 6 inches all over, as well as the rest of the place, the rest of the model or whatnot. You can also check that by using this tool right here, Build Terrain. It'll build terrain each time on the elevation that you made a change. So if I go back here and kind of see that it's made some changes, well, it hasn't shows the elevation lines, but we're going to get to that. So then I'm going to select this guy again. I'm just going to copy and paste in place. And remember, I had this at -6 inches. So if I pull it out over here and I shrink it up, and I'm going to double click it, and let's say I take it down to 5 feet and hit tab. So it's negative now 60 inches, interior flat. Click OK. And I'm going to stretch the sides out a little bit. So here I'm telling the computer over here I want it 5 feet lower than my house. And again, if I go to this magic tool, Build Terrain, you can also find it under here, Terrain, Build Terrain. You can see the elevation lines going down. So now we can see here's at -1, -2, and so on and so forth. I'm going to grab that, copy and paste in place, and let's do 5 feet over here. In fact, let's do a lot deeper over here. Maybe this is the side where it really lowers down. So we'll say -10 feet. And then again, I'm going to hit that build terrain and it'll readjust the terrain. So I'm going to take that again, copy and paste in place, and this time I'm going to rotate it this way. I'm going to bring it in here, and I don't have to get so close to these, because it's going to be its own pattern. And then so I had it 5 feet there, 10 feet there, so why don't we make this guy like, -6 feet. And then I'll copy and paste and place that exact same thing, and I'll put it here on the other side, and I'll hit that terrain generation tool again. And now let's take a look at the 3D and kind of see what's going on here. So from what we can see now is we see the house is on a level pad, and then the terrain is sloping down. Some of the things that might help us visualize it too is, again, we can start with a CAD line, and let's say I put a driveway in here. And of course, they do have a driveway tool you can use. I am just using a CAD line, and I'm going to then convert the CAD line into an elevation terrain feature. And click OK, and then I'm going to set it to 1 inch, and I'm going to set the thickness to 4 inches. And I'm going to go back to my 3D view so I can kind of tell what's the grass is kind of doing now, or the terrain is doing now. And you can see how it's all floating away from the house. And you can adjust that as needed. So if you need to lower it even more, because it looks like my garage is, and I'll go in here to find out, I've set my garage to -12. So probably the proper thing to do in my case is double clicking this guy, change it to -12 inches. and thereby I get a little bit better feed on the garage doors out front to the terrain. And again, I just want to circle it and make sure it's all building generating correctly. So there it goes. And that's the quick and fast and easy way. Now, if you needed to be really lowered in one section of the house, you can do that. For instance, let's say we go around the back and we really want to lower this porch because you have a basement down below. So we would take it and into the back here, and I would say, okay, obviously I don't want the terrain to go any more than 6 feet there, but from that point over, it's going to really drop. So I'm going to copy this once again, and I'm going to move it in here, and I'll move it down like so, and like so, and I'm going to say this part of the back of the house, we really want to be -8 feet, because it's a full 8 feet under the whatever existing. Click OK, and then of course we want to make sure we generate. Looks like it's taking my Nano doors all over the place because they were set at 0. But basically you can see the terrain now. So if you had built down that basement floor, it's now zipping down to the basement. You can also make sure by clicking this terrain that it doesn't go through hide terrain and intersecting building. So that way you don't see the terrain appear inside your building. If you're having trouble seeing grass inside your building, that's because that check mark was there. So that's been messing with terrains here at ChiefTutor.com. Hope you learned something new, because I really didn't learn a darn thing, really, because I'm training the video and it doesn't make sense if I didn't learn. And okay, now let's stick around. We got a few more minutes just to entertain ourselves. We've already seen the video. We understand how things work, and we're just sick and tired of listening to Dave. But Dave does have a joke. That's right. I rarely share my jokes, but this time, I'm a happy camper. I'm going to share a joke. Tell you a little bit about myself. Actually, the joke has nothing to do with myself. It's just a joke I heard on the... Yeah, let's just get to it, shall we? Okay. So there's two guys walking in the desert. You got a notepad for this. You're going to write this down. This is good. There's two people walking in the desert. They come upon a great hole, because we're talking about terrain, so it's a huge hole. They can't figure out how deep it is, so they look around to throw something down in the hole, and they find an old black anvil leaning up against a tree. So they drag it over, move it over, right down in the hole. They listen and wait. They don't hear a thing. But pretty soon they start to hear feet clopping. And they don't understand. They turn around and here's this donkey, and it's running straight at them. And they can't believe it. It comes so close, they pull itself apart. They run. The donkey runs through them, right down into the hole. Holy cow, they said, I can't believe this donkey just jumped down that hole. They look down the hole. They wait to hear something. They don't hear anything. A little time goes by. You hear a farmer saying, donkey, 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 where's my donkey? He comes across the two guys and says, hey guys, you see my donkey? I've been looking everywhere for my donkey. And these two guys said, you would not believe what I just saw. Your donkey just came running straight at us, right through us, and right down that hole. And the farmer looks down that hole and says, nah, that can't be. I tied him to an anvil.